Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Development Advisory Committee virtual meeting by electronic participation for October 12th, 2022. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call. Dennis O'Connor,
Present.
Deep Bassi,
Present.
Paul Sedra,
Present.
Dan Kennedy,
Present.
and John Sepul is present as well. So this evening, we've got two meetings. The first meeting being the Committee of Adjustment, where we will review three minor variances and render decisions on them. We'll adjourn that meeting and then we'll proceed into the Advisory Committee, where we be advising on a proposed zoning bylaw amendment and two severance applications. So we'll start with number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Lynn, do we have any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not.
Okay. Before we get to the approval of the minutes, I'd like to indicate that we have county planning staff, Megan Ferris and Joanna Salzberg here, as well as our Secretary Treasurer, Lynn Banks, and our clerk, Courtney Hoyt Fox. So we'll get into number 5, approval of the minutes. So you have a mover to approve the minutes for March the 8th, 2022.
Move.
Moved by Dennis, second by Dan.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Dennis,
In favor.
Deep,
In favor.
Paul,
In favor.
Dan?
In favor.
I approve as well. So please note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means or consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded on and posted on YouTube. So we're going to move into the applications for minor variance, and the purpose of the hearings for each minor variance is to inform and provide the public with the opportunity to ask questions or express views with respect to a minor variance application before us today. The township requests you please notify the Secretary Treasurer of the committee by email at lynnbanks@buslinch.ca if you wish to be on record, would like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding any application. The format of this hearing is as follows. Staff will present the information report, specifically outline the purpose and application, summarize the compliance with the township notification submission requirements, and outlining staff comments, agency comments, and public comments of those who could not attend. Then we'll ask the applicant or agent to present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Following this, the public can obtain clarification, ask questions, express their views on the proposal, and you'll have a maximum 10 minutes to speak. Following the public, the members of the committee can likewise obtain clarification, ask questions, and then we'll bring it into the committee to deliberate the application, render the decision, and the decision will be subject to a 20-day appeal period. So we'll move into the first one, 6A, minor variance application D13 FRE David and Natalia Ferreira, 29 Eagle Lane, Plan 386, Lot 16 to Lot 26, and Concession 1, Part Lot 6, Township of Puslinch, requesting relief of new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from Section 4.17.4 non-conforming uses. The purpose of and effect of this application is to provide relief from Section 4.17.4 to allow for the enlargement of a single detached dwelling within the natural environment. Okay, Lynn, would you please summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, outlining staff, agency comments, and recommendations, as well as public comments of those who could not attend?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met and the following comments were received. Township of Puslinch Fire Services said that the fire department has no concerns other than to remind the owners to ensure adequate access is provided and maintained to the structures at all times to assist emergency vehicle response if there is an emergency. The GRCA said that they have no objection to the proposed minor variance application and has issued permit number 723/21 for the proposed development. Although a portion of the addition is within the identified valley slope and erosion hazard, GRCA has reviewed the proposed development and they do not anticipate any slope instability or impacts as a result of this application or the proposed addition. The Township Building Department said that they will require the following to be satisfied in order to proceed: a review of the existing septic system by a qualified septic installer or an engineer will be required to confirm it can support the proposed addition with new plumbing fixtures. If the septic doesn't need to be expanded or replaced, a separate building permit will be required. And the second one was separate building permit applications are required to be applied for and obtained for the accessory buildings constructed on the property. And this is applied to 2 separate buildings. And their last statement was further technical comments will be made at the time of plans review for any applicable building permit applications. And the final comment was from Source Water. They said since the property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat, the application can be screened out and it will not require Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act.
Great, thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join the panelists to present their application?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Trevor
Good
Hawkins from MHBC.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear your name.
Trevor Hawkins from MHBC on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Furr.
Great, thank you, Trevor. So please proceed with your application, and if you want a specific plan or view, our clerk will oblige you.
Sure. Maybe on page 17 of your package, there's a map that shows the zoning. That might be a good one to start with. Might be a little bit further up, I guess.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't have the full, I just have the sketches that were provided, so I could take a moment and find it in the agenda package.
Sure.
But I just have the sketches here in front of me of the actual elevations.
Okay, thank you.
If you just bear with me for a moment.
Sure.
And Mr. Hawkins, sorry, could you just remind me which page you were referring to?
17. There we go. So for thanks, Courtney. That's very helpful. For members of the committee, this is just a bit of a background. The bulb that you see within the red outline is zoned agriculture. So this property has agricultural zoning and it has natural environment zoning. So Mr. Furr participated in the consultation process as it relates to the comprehensive zoning bylaw. And there was an attempt through that process to try and rectify where the boundary of the agricultural zone is and where the boundary of the natural environment zone was, with the objective that his house as it existed at that time was for all intents and purposes in the agricultural zone. When he advanced the proposed addition, which is shown in blue, light blue on the map in front of us, he had further discussions with the township. I became involved. We had some discussions with the GRCA. We were trying to determine whether that addition was or wasn't in the agricultural zone or the natural environment zone. At the end of the day, we determined that a minor variance was going to be the best route forward for him to advance his proposed renovation and addition to his house. So that's why we're before the committee today. So there's a component. If we sort of went back to the elevations that Courtney had up earlier, I can just walk you through the rest of it. Thanks again. So we see the building as it exists upper left of the image. There's an addition proposed or a renovation and a modest expansion proposed above the garage. And then the image below that is the addition that goes into the slope that's sort of next to the house and for which Mr. Furr has already obtained a GRCA permit. So the nature of the variance is to allow those expansions within what is determined, or at this point has been determined to be a house that's not in compliance with the bylaw because the boundary of the NE zone goes through summer portions of the house. So that's the nature of the application, is to allow that addition and the renovation above the garage. There's actually no new bathrooms proposed. So I know that there were comments from building staff about as it relates to the septic system and the new bathroom. It's actually a bathroom being removed and a new bathroom being constructed. So there's actually no new fixtures at all. It's just being moved within the new portion of the addition. So no new fixtures are proposed as part of this application. And then there was another comment about a building permit, I believe, for accessory structures. So not in any way related to the minor variance application or the addition. There are accessory structures that exist on the property, quite a distance from the house. And I believe that's what building staff are referring to. And certainly Mr. Furr is happy to talk to building staff about those separately, but they're not really related to the minor variance, which pertains to this addition and renovation that's illustrated on the image in front of us. So it's fairly, what we view as a fairly straightforward application. I know county staff in their report didn't raise any concerns. GRCA hasn't raised any concerns. He already has a permit from the GRCA for the addition. So we're here before the committee to seek permission so that Mr. Furr can proceed with his building permit.
Great, thank you, Trevor. So we'll turn it over to the public now. Lynn, are there any registrants who have requested to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, I did not receive any.
Okay. Courtney, would you please canvass the audience, advise us whether any attendees watching the hearing would like to provide comments or ask questions regarding the application currently under discussion?
If there's any members or attendees in the attendee section that would like to make a comment, if you could just use the raise your hand function, it's just located at the bottom of your screen. Mr. Chair, I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, let's turn it over to the committee members. First of all, Dennis, you're on.
No, I'm good with the GRCA granting the permit. I'm fine with this. Thank you.
Okay, Deep.
Oh, I have a couple of questions and I need some clarification on this. So this property falls under legal non-conforming use, correct?
So
That's
Trevor,
through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I think there's some discussion still to be had about where the boundary is and isn't, but we understand from the township that part of the house is in the NE zone.
Okay, so if it is legal non-conforming, which prohibits any expansions in natural environment area, and according to your phase 1 report, you guys are asking for additional footprint as well, correct? On the addition?
Right, there's an expansion, yes.
Okay. And what about the septic? Is a septic system adequate for the addition?
Yeah, so there's essentially no new fixtures being proposed, right? It's a tear down of an existing bathroom and then a new bathroom that has the same number of fixtures being constructed. So the septic system, the load on the septic system isn't changing and the number of people living in the house isn't changing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
okay, Paul,
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, Dan.
No, I'm fine with this, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I just want to explore the two suggested conditions that the staff are suggesting. The first one is a review of the existing septic system by a qualified septic installer engineer will be required to conform and can support the proposed addition of new plumbing fixtures. That the septic does need to expand or replace, the septic building permit would be required. I guess from my point of view is, I'm not the person looking at the design, so I really can't comment whether or not this is appropriate. I know that our proponents are suggesting that we remove it. I'd like to go around the table, see if you have any comments. Dennis?
No, I'm okay if the GSRA is fine.
Okay, Deep?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, and Dan?
No, I'm fine with this. As long as the septic meets today's standards, I guess. I don't know how long the septic's been in there, for example, but
Sure, well, yeah, we'll leave it up to the professionals, look at it. The second one is a separate building permit applications are required to be applied for and obtained for the accessory buildings constructed on the property. I assume the reason why this is in here, that there has been no building permits obtained for those two separate buildings. And the intent is to bring the entire site into compliance during this application for a minor variance and provide a condition accordingly. So Dennis, are you fine, or do you have comments with respect to this statement?
I'm fine with it, having the building permits bring it in compliance.
Okay, fair enough. We'll go to Deep.
I'm okay with the building permit. I guess my only concern was the legal conforming use and, and also expanding on the use.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, I think the building permits cover that off. It feels like almost a separate issue than this variance. So I would say that that should be reasonable.
Okay, and Dan?
yeah, I concur with the comments.
Okay, so basically the way I hear it is that we're going to keep the conditions in. Is that correct? Okay, get nods from everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go through the proper decision.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I just.
And I'm sorry,
want-
this matter
Okay.
has been discussed by the committee now. It's into our realm. We're not accepting any comments. Okay, application made by David Nathalie Furra, municipal address 29 Eagle Lane, Township Whistling. Plan 386, lot 16 to lot 26, concession 1, part lot 6, Township of Whistling, County of Wellington, a matter of section 45 of Planning Act as amended, and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2008 as amended, and an application for minor variance requesting relief to allow for an enlargement of existing single detached dwelling within the natural environmental zone conditions. 1, a review of the existing septic tank by qualified septic installer or engineer will be required to confirm rather it can support the proposed addition with new plumbing fixtures. If the septic does need to be expanded or replaced, a separate building permit is required. 2, separate building permit applications are required to be applied for and obtained for the accessory buildings constructed on the property. 2 separate buildings. Okay, so we either approve with the conditions, or we oppose it, or we defer it. So let's go around the table. Dennis?
Approve.
Okay, this is with the conditions. Okay, Deep?
Oppose.
Okay, Paul?
Oppose.
Dan?
Approve with conditions.
And I approve with conditions as well. So the count is 3-2. And it carries. And as I mentioned before, it's subject to a 20-day appeal period. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda. 6B, minor variance application D13 FAB, Jason and Tanya Fabian, 69 Heritage Lake Drive, WVLCP 172 Level 1, Unit 13, Township Puslinch, requesting relief from new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from section 14, table 14.1, site-specific special provisions number 31. The purpose and effect of this application is to provide relief from 1, section 14, table 14.1, special provisions number 31 to permit increase maximum lot coverage from 20 to 22%. Okay. Lynn, would you please summarize the application, notification, and submission requirements outlining staff, agency comments, and recommendations, as well as public comments of those who could not attend?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met, and the following comments were received from the Township of Puslinch Fire Services. Have stated that they have reviewed the minor variance proposal and have no concerns with it. The GRCA said they have no objection to the proposed minor variance application and have issued permit 857/21 for the proposed development. And the plans circulated with this application are generally consistent with the plans approved under the GRCA permit noted above. The pool shape is slightly different than the approved Schedule B plans, but the portion of the pool within the GRCA regulation limit is within the originally approved footprint. GRCA staff do not anticipate negative impacts to the adjacent floodplain as a result of this application or the proposed development, and we have no objection to the approval of the application by the township. Building has stated that they have no comments or concerns from a building code perspective on the above noted application. And Source Water has said that the property is not located in a vulnerable area. Therefore, the application can be screened out and it does not require Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act.
Great, thank you. Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join the panels to present her application?
Hi, good afternoon or good evening.
Good afternoon or evening, Haley.
Yeah, so my name is Haley Keast from Van Harten Surveying. And I'm here representing the property owner, Jason Fabian, and he's also in attendance tonight if there are any questions directly for him as well.
Okay, go ahead.
So as you can see on the sketch, there's currently an existing dwelling on the property, and the lot coverage is 20% with the dwelling. The proposal is for an outdoor pool and a shed. However, the outdoor pool is not considered as part of the lot coverage. So just the shed is being considered for this application. So with the proposed shed, we're requesting a lot coverage to be 22% instead of 20. And I also want to note that there's a site-specific zoning already on this property as it's within the Heritage Lake community, so the coverage is already is 20%. There are also a number of properties in the area with similar or higher lot coverages that we've worked on applications for, including the neighboring parcel. So we don't think that this proposal will have any negative impacts to the neighboring properties. There were no concerns issued. Jason also let me know that the condo board has approved the request for a shed as well. And if you have any questions, myself or Jason can answer those.
Okay, great, thank you, Haley, and let's turn over to the public. Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, there are not.
Okay, and then Courtney, would you please canvass the audience to see if any attendees watching the hearing would like to provide comments or ask questions regarding the application currently in the discussion?
If attendees could please use the raise your hand function located at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to make a question or comment. Mr. Chair, I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, very good, thank you. Let's turn over to the committee now. Dennis.
No, I'm fine. This was in line with what we've done before.
Great, Deep,
No, I'm good with this.
Paul,
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
Dan?
I'm fine with this. We've done a few of them already.
Okay, great. So let's work through the decision. Okay, application made by Jason and Tanya Fabian at 69 Heritage Lake Drive, Township Puslinch. Legal description, WVLCP 172, Level 1, Unit 13, Township Puslinch, County of Wellington. There's no conditions. So we'll go around the table. So I'd approve, opposed, to deferred. Dennis,
Approve.
Deep,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Dan?
Approve.
And I approve as well. And as I mentioned before, in the previous one, this is subject to a 20-day appeal period. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, 6C. Minor variance application D13-BRO, Rossellini Real Estate Group, Ontario, Inc., McLean Road West, construction 7, front part lots 26 and 27, Township Puslinch, requesting relief of new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from 1, section 4.22A1, outdoor storage areas and uses, 2, section 5.15A2, yards were permitted, 3, section 13.5, industrial zone overlay, and 4, section 14.0, site-specific special provisions. Number 83. The purpose and effect of this application is provide relief from 1, section 4.22A1 to permit outdoor storage within 20 meters of a lot line abutting a street. 2, section 5.15, 2, to permit loading docks in the front yard facing McLean Road. 3, section 13.5A to permit outdoor storage for trailer parking for short periods of time, less than 3 days. And 4, section 14, site-specific special provision number 83 to permit short-term, less than 3 days, truck trailer parking. Okay, Lynn, would you please summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, and outline staff, agency comments and recommendations, as well as public comments of those who cannot attend?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met, and the following comments are received. The Township of Puslinch Fire Services stated that a review of the minor variance submission as referenced above was completed. The department has no concerns with the minor variance request. They did note they have some concerns with the site plan that was submitted with the minor variance. However, we'll probably be getting an updated site plan, and they will address that at the site plan approval stage. The GRCA has no objection to the application as there are no regulated features within the area of proposed works. Although there are no proposed works within the GRCA regulated limits, the GRCA notes that there are regulated wetlands within the subject property, and any future proposed development within these features and or regulated allowance will require a permit from the GRCA pursuant to Ontario Reg 150/06. They also wish to note that this application may be subject to growth plan policies for key hydrologic features, and suggest that the Township of Puslinch consider the applicable policies in the review of the application. Source Water has stated that they can confirm that this application can be screened out. However, they will provide comments when when the owner submits for a site plan. And that's the last comments.
Thank you. Courtney, please have the owner or applicant join the panelists to present their application.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
So, Mr. Chairman and committee, my name is Chris Pigeon. I'm a planning consultant with GSP Group. I'm here this evening representing Broccolini Real Estate Group, And what you have before you is our preliminary site plan, albeit that it is evolving. This is a proposal for approximately 700,000 square foot warehouse fulfillment center. It will employ between 400 and 600 employees, depending on the peak season. We have met with the County of Wellington Economic Development Department and the CAO's office, and we have and planning staff, I should say. We've also met with the mayor's office, the township CAO's office, and clerk's office, just to present the proposal by Broccolini Real Estate Group. And it was identified that this site and the proposal that will function as a large cross-dock operation. So essentially goods come into this site from the Toronto International Airport, for example, or from shipping, and goods will come in via trailer, not by sea cans. And the goods will then go into the cross-dock. They'll be redistributed through the cross-dock, and then will flow through the building out to other trailers and then move to other distribution centers in Ontario. 3 of the 4 minor variance requests all relate to outdoor storage. And in the township of Puss Lynch zoning bylaw, as soon as you park a trailer and decouple a trailer from the chassis or from the tractor or the truck cab, it becomes outdoor storage. And the township of Puss Lynch has been very careful to ensure that outdoor trailer parking or loading docks are screened from view from Highway 401. So in this site plan, you can see that there's a wide, it's actually 14-meter wide green space that runs along Highway 401. And it is proposed that it will be bermed and significantly landscaped, and that'll be dealt with as a part of the site plan approval process. The 4th variance deals with the storage of trailers along McLean Road. And there's a section in the zoning bylaw 4.22A1 that does not allow outdoor storage, in this case trailers, to be parked within 20 meters of a road allowance. So again, it is proposed we have a 6-meter setback that is shown along McLean Road, and it is proposed that it would be extensively landscaped. And through the site plan application process, we will be asking the township whether it's possible to also do some additional landscaping within the boulevard of McLean Road. All 4 variances relate to the screening of trailers and loading docks associated with the proposed development. We did receive the staff report, and I must say I want to acknowledge Ms. Ferris, Ms. Banks, and Ms. Salzberg with regard to getting the report to us in advance to allow us to consider it with Broccolini. We did, we're fine with the 4 conditions of the minor variance. However, we have asked for a refinement of those conditions. And I believe, and I don't want to speak for staff, but I believe we've reached a consensus on those refined wording.
Hey, Chris, are you finished?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, fair enough. Before we get into the public, I'd just like the staff to comment on the refined conditions so that everybody's aware of it when we're discussing the conditions. Joanne, is that you?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, you would like the conditions?
Well,
confirmation of the conditions?
the proponent mentioned that the conditions the existing conditions have been refined. I was wondering if you can comment on the refinement of these conditions and what they are.
Yeah, I can happily do that, Mr. Chair. There was discussion with the applicant about the conditions and refining them, and there were some changes that were proposed that relate to a few of the items, so I can go through them. The first condition, which is relief that is specific to outdoor storage of transportation trailers and limited to a maximum of 2.5 trailers per dock at a time, rather than the 2 that was originally within the condition. The second condition has been modified so that the period for temporary trailer storage does not exceed 4 business days rather than 3 consecutive days. The third condition remains unchanged. And then the fourth condition just changes the beginning of the condition that the site plan shall address items including but not limited to visual screening through landscaping, appropriate fencing, berms, or a combination thereof to the satisfaction of the township. Planning staff are satisfied with these changes and that it doesn't impact the opinion that the application is minor.
Great, thank you very much, Joanna. So let's turn over the public. Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, there are not.
Okay, Courtney, would you please advise whether there are any attendees watching the hearing who would like to provide comments, ask questions regarding the application currently under discussion?
If any of the attendees wish to make a comment, if you could just use the raise your hand feature, it's just located at the bottom of your screen. Mr. Chair, I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's turn over the committee to ask questions or make comments. First of all, Dennis, you?
Yeah, just regards to the trailers. So if I'm understanding this right, you could have one trailer hooked to a tractor at the dock and 2.5 storage spots. Is that how it would be figured out? Or just 2.5 trailers per dock on the property?
Chris?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is correct, committee. The site plan that we are preparing for formal site plan submission has 2.5 trailer parking spaces per dock. So that is in addition to the loading dock. You're correct.
Thank you. That was my question.
Great, thank you. Deep?
Hi, Chris, great presentation. Is there any way to relocate those parking spots from along McLean Road to the back somewhere? Is that a possibility or no?
So, Mr. Chairman, it's not a possibility. So this tenant, this facility is the same facility that has been built elsewhere in North America. So the intent is that if for training purposes, or if the tenant goes to Winnipeg, for example, they walk into an identical facility. So the number of loading docks, the number of trailer parking spaces is precisely the same. And I'm using Winnipeg as an example, in Winnipeg as it would be in Puslinch. So it's a prototype, if you will, for this warehouse distribution facility.
Great, thank you. And I have a comment and a question for the staff as well. How do we ensure those trailers that are parked there, they're there for 3 days or 4 days, not like a long period of time, like a week or 10 days? Because it tends to happen in warehousing where a trailer sits there for a long period of time. How do we know? How do we ensure it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the intent is that the condition requires that these trailers only stay on the site for the 4 business days. So if there wasn't compliance with that condition and with the minor variance, then they would be out of compliance with the bylaw. And then it would be a compliance issue at that point.
Great, thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, no, thanks for the presentation. I think actually it's a really good opportunity for our township. Sounds like a lot of jobs coming, really good for our economic development. And 700,000 square foot warehouse there, I think they've done it. In my opinion, there's some, the work being done here. We're going to see the building, not too many trucks, because it's going to be a big building. That'll be front and center of the visual there. And I think just with the landscaping and things, that's just my comment. I think it's great. The only thing that came up in my mind, it's not pretty much related to outdoor storage would be the amount of activity from trucks coming and going from that area. I don't know if our infrastructure is designed for that, but it's not really entailed to this presentation. So I'm okay. Thank you.
Chris, you put your hand up. Would you want to comment on that?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, just for the committee's comfort level. So we are required to do a traffic impact study, and any road improvements will be a part of that site plan approval process. And that does include Ministry of Transportation approvals.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah, I just had a couple comment, or one comment that I made to myself when I looked at this a week ago is I was just curious what percentage of the trailer parking that you've got planned will be utilized. I guess I would ask that question for your peak period of time. What are you planning on there?
Thank you. So Mr. Chairman, so this business, it does have a regular season and it has a peak season. And the peak season generally runs from October through to the end of January. And there will be, as the term peak would imply, a great deal of activity through that period. This operation runs 7 days a week, but it does have quieter times, and the quieter times are on weekends and in the evenings or in the overnight. But there will be a great deal of activity in terms of the movement of those trailers. They will not be idle. Some of the trailers will come in and out the same day. Some will be in and out within 2 days. The purpose in asking for the modification to the condition was, for example, over the Christmas break, if we happen to have a Saturday, Sunday, and then the 2 stat days being Christmas and Boxing Day, we would be offside of the zoning bylaw. And that's why we added and changed the wording to 4 business days. And we are very confident that all of the trailers will move within 4 business days.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation. My main concern is that we don't end up with McLean Road as a parking lot, for waiting for a space to get into your parking lot, for example. And then I agree with Paul's comments on the truck traffic. It is a fantastic opportunity for us here, and I just hope that's looked into closely. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just add one comment.
Sure.
When we met with the mayor said, if this is a transport terminal, please go down the highway to somewhere else, because we're not interested in that in Puslinch Township. This is a fulfillment center with, as I said, 400 to 600 jobs.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any specific comments. I echo the sentiments of the other committee members. It's an exciting opportunity for the township. So I have a question of staff. Is there a concern that the number of business days outdoor storage is 4 days? Can it be just left blank? In other words, put the onus on the owner to worry about it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the reason that there's the 4 business days was to reflect the original ask that the applicant had, where they said that that would require 3 days of trailer storage in terms of the amount of time it would take for the trailers to leave the property. The 4 days, as the applicant has indicated, was specifically to relate to holidays or that kind of thing. Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, are you referring to striking that condition or modifying it?
Yeah, I was referring to striking that condition, but I'd like to have your comments on that.
The purpose of that condition is to ensure that the trailers move within a reasonable time and to hold the applicant to what they've said in terms of the amount of time those trailers are on a property, to ensure that there is always movement and they're not stored over a specific amount of time.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I hear one of our members also questioned how do we enforce that, and I really can't see staff going out there with a pen and paper noting all the trailers are coming back 3 days to check them out again, especially if there's going to be 2.5 trailers per dock. And I think we got 142 dock spaces. But anyway, that's fine. I'm not going to pursue this any further.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, sorry, if I could just clarify one thing. In terms of the trailer parking being temporary, we were trying to also reflect that within that time period, showing that because temporary isn't a defined term, we were trying to set what the meaning of temporary parking would mean with those days as well. So just wanted to clarify that as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll take it to the committee. I'll read out the revised conditions. I think we're all in favor of that. If you're not, let me know right now so that we can discuss it. I don't see any hands up or comments. Okay, fair enough. So let's go through it. Application made by Broccolini Real Estate Group, Ontario, Inc. Legal descriptions, concession 7, front part lots 26 and 27, Township Pussons, County of Wellington. The matter section 45 of the Planning Act as amended and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended, and an application for minor variance requesting relief to permit 1 outdoor storage within 20 meters of a lot line abutting a street, 2 loading docks in the front yard facing McLean Road, 3 outdoor storage for trailer parking for short-term periods, less than 4 days. Short-term less than 4 days trailer parking. And conditions are that the relief is specific to the outdoor stores of transportation trailers and limited to a maximum of 2.5 trailers per dock at a time. 2, that the outdoor storage of transportation trailers is temporary and for a period not to exceed 4 business days per trailer. 3, that the storage along McLean Road maintain a minimum setback of 6 meters from the property line. And 4, that the site plan shall address items including but not limited to visual screening through landscaping, appropriate fencing, berms, or combination thereof to the satisfaction of the township. Okay, let's go around the table. Dennis?
Approved.
Steve?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, committee.
You're quite welcome. So there, move on to item number 7, other matters. There are none. Adjournment of committee adjustment at 7:48 PM. Do I have a mover?
Second move.
Deep, second by Dan. All in favor? Dennis?
Approved.
Deep,
Approved.
Paul,
Approved.
Dan,
Approve.
and I approve as well. Okay, bear with me a sec here. Okay, we're going to move into the Planning Development Committee meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order. As I mentioned before, we have 2 severance applications before us, and as well as a proposed zoning amendment to provide comments on. So let's go around the table. Dennis,
Present.
Deep,
Present.
Paul,
Present.
Dan,
Present.
and I'm present as well. I'll go through the notification. Please note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting, electronic means you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. So let's start with the disclosure of pecuniary interest. Lynn, did we receive any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not.
Does anyone have any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
No.
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 Thank you. Okay, we go to the approval of minutes. They were revised, so I need a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes of March the 8th, 2022.
I'll move. It's Paul.
Paul, okay, and second by Dennis. All in favor, Dennis,
Favor.
Deep,
In favor.
Paul,
In favor.
Dan,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. Okay, so let's go into the zoning bylaw amendments, 7A. Zoning bylaw amendment D13 ARU Township of Puslinch. The purpose and effect of the application is to amend the Township of Puslinch Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 23-118 as the township has undertaken review of existing zoning provisions related to accessory apartments. The proposed amendment is to one, update the provisions for accessory apartments to bring the township zoning bylaws into conformity with the Planning Act, the County of Wellington official plan, and best practices for additional residential units, ARUs. This is a township initiated amendment that affects all lands in Puslinch. So again, I'd like to reiterate that this is strictly for our committee to review and comment on. And if there's any members who want to provide comments, there will be a public meeting on this. Lynn, can you just update us when the public meeting is for this item?
The public meeting, I believe, is May 25th.
May 25th? Great, thank you. So if you're interested, attend that meeting and
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I believe it's tomorrow.
it's tomorrow,
Yes,
April
it's tomorrow,
25th.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm glad for the correction. So if anybody honest would like to make comments on that item, please attend the public meeting tomorrow evening. It's, I believe it's 7 o'clock, and the website has all the information you need to connect to the meeting. Okay, so I assume staff will present this. Is that you, Joanna?
Yep, Mr. Chair, that will be me presenting. I believe Courtney has the presentation.
Yes, Joanna, whichever you prefer, I can screen share and flip through, or you can do that on your own, whichever you'd rather.
If you have it handy, that would be perfect. Thank you, Courtney.
Sure.
Great, so thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. The township has initiated a zoning bylaw amendment to update the zoning bylaws requirements regarding additional residential units. And planning staff is looking for feedback from PDAC tonight regarding the proposed draft changes. The purpose of the amendment is to bring the bylaw into conformity with the County of Wellington official plan policies, while also considering the local context of the community as well as best practices in other communities. Planning staff have prepared a report with draft revisions to the zoning bylaw, which will be presented at the public meeting tomorrow. If you could go to the next one, Courtney, that'd be greatly appreciated. Just in terms of policy background, in 2019, the Planning Act was amended through Bill 108, More Homes, More Choice Act, to require municipalities to authorize the use of additional residential units within their official plans. The purpose of these changes was ultimately to support alternative housing options and rental opportunities within Ontario. In 2020, the county adopted Official Plan Amendment 112 to implement the Planning Act changes for additional residential units. These policies provide direction to local municipalities when they update their zoning bylaws for additional residential units. And the official plan identifies matters that must be addressed through this process and other matters that should be considered by municipalities when they are updating their bylaws. The county official plan authorizes the use of one additional residential unit within a single detached, semi-detached, or row house dwelling, and one additional residential unit within an ancillary building to a single detached, semi-detached, or row house dwelling. And the official plan also clarifies that additional residential units can occupy the entirety of an ancillary building. Next, please. So what actually is an additional residential unit? And you may have heard of them by other terms, so things like an accessory or basement apartment, secondary suites, or in-law suites. And essentially, they're a self-contained residential unit that contains a kitchen, a bathroom, as well as sleeping facilities. And these units are also subordinate in scale and function to the main dwelling. So you can see a few images on the left side of this screen here. And on the most left are images of additional residential units within a principal dwelling. So in this case, it's a single detached dwelling. And then on the right image, you can see these additional residential units within an ancillary building. So these are just meant to show different combinations of what they could look like. Next, please. So this slide shows what the current requirements of the zoning bylaw are for accessory apartments. And these accessory apartments are permitted as of right within a number of zones in the bylaw. And notably, only one accessory apartment is permitted per property currently. Only within the agricultural zone are accessory apartments permitted to be within a detached building. And through this zoning amendment, we are proposing to delete this specific section in its entirety and replace it with provisions for additional residential units so that the zoning bylaws can in conformity with the official plan and also to reflect the local context, and then also taking into account how these additional residential units have been looked at in other communities as well. Next. So in terms of the changes that are being proposed, we are looking to delete that entirety of the section 4.2, and we're also looking to modify the definition. So you can see accessory apartment is proposed to be changed to additional residential unit attached and additional residential unit detached to reflect the different situations where these units can occur on a property. We're also proposing to adjust the other sections of the bylaw that refer to accessory apartments to reflect these different definitions of the attached and detached additional residential units. Next. So as I had mentioned, we're proposing to delete the section referring to accessory apartments in its entirety and replace it with a few components. The first is general provisions that would refer to any additional residential unit. And then we're also breaking it out into the attached and detached. So in terms of the general provisions that would reflect all additional residential units, you can see the changes that we're proposing on the screen. So it would be that 2 additional residential units are permitted per lot, which is allowed to have a single detached, semi-detached, or townhouse dwelling. We're also proposing a size cap of the additional residential units of 40% of the principal dwelling up to 130 square meters. The height shall not exceed the size of the principal dwelling. Limits on driveway access so that it's shared between the two, between the dwellings, that they can be serviced adequately, and provisions regarding meeting the Ontario Building Code and Fire Code, minimum distance separation formula requirements, and also prohibiting these units within specific circumstances, so within hazardous lands and also within bed and breakfasts. Next. So we're also proposing specific provisions, as I said, for an attached additional residential unit, as well as for detached. So in terms of what the attached units look like, this includes where there's an additional, or where there's within a principal building, so that'd be within a single detached, semi-detached, or townhouse, or also when a unit is attached to the building, so through an addition. So if an addition is being proposed, we're proposing that the addition can be to the side or behind the principal dwelling, and will need to meet the setbacks that are applicable to that zone. We're also proposing separate private entrances and also allowing for additional residential units to occupy the entirety of a basement when they are within a principal dwelling. So that's that top picture example on the right. Next slide, please, Courtney. Thank you. In terms of requirements for detached, you can see them on the screen. So this includes units within an ancillary building or a unit that occupies the entirety of this ancillary building. So more like a tiny home. And you can see an image of this example at the bottom of the screen. So these units are proposed to have to be on the same lot as the principal dwelling, and the unit cannot be severed from the principal dwelling. And we're relying on the setbacks. Setbacks required are identified within the zone that the use is located. And then there's also a requirement that these buildings have to be within the building cluster and within 40 meters of the principal dwelling. We're also proposing additional height restrictions. So in a situation where there's an additional residential unit that's occupying the entirety of a building, the height maximum is 5 meters. And in a situation where the unit is on the second story, like within the top picture example, the ancillary building shall be up to 8 meters. All other provisions applicable to accessory buildings and structures would apply. And we're also proposing to prohibit these units on a lot, on the same lot where a garden suite exists. And then next slide. So that concludes the presentation, but happy to answer any questions. And myself and Megan Ferris are present.
Okay, Dennis?
No, that's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Hey, Deep?
Oh, I'm good. This is fantastic.
Hey, Paul
Thanks for the presentation. It was good. Thank you.
and Dan.
Just a quick question. What differentiates this between this and a garden suite?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Chair, the difference is essentially that a garden suite is a temporary unit, meaning that they can only be established on a lot for a certain period of time, and then they have to be removed, versus the additional residential units are a permanent structure that be permitted by building permit. So you can just come in and apply for a building permit. The other, I guess, catch with the garden suites is they're only established on a lot through a zoning amendment. So there's that process that establishes them as well versus the building permit for these permanent units.
So will this eliminate garden suites going forward?
It would, there are definite restrictions to garden suites that make them more difficult to establish on a property. So it could be foreseeable that the additional residential units are more favorable and people would use those units more often.
Okay, another question. So these can never be severed off or sold off as a private or as a separate entity on its own, correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The intent is that these aren't severed off because we don't want to incentivize taking these properties off units. They're meant to provide different housing opportunities within the same lot and to be subordinate to the main use. So not be a main use independent of the principal dwelling.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have several questions. There's a lot of big homes being built in the township, and it's mostly for multi-generation families living in there. So my question is, in cases like this, you may have grandparents, you may have family, and they may have a sibling living in the same place. Is there a thought about permitting two such dwellings within a home rather than having one inside a home and another one as a separate ancillary structure?
So my understanding is that the policy laid out within the changes in the Planning Act and then implemented in the official plan direct for the one unit. In terms of having both units within, then I think that would require additional planning approvals, but I can let Megan may know or may be able to provide a more detailed answer. Oh, it looks like she may have dropped off the call there, but
sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
It's having some technical difficulties. So through you, Mr. Chair, and I think Joanna's hit the kind of like the nail on the head. It's like the way the county has initially interpreted the Planning Act changes and how it's implemented in our official plan. It talks about one ARU in the primary dwelling and then one detached. So ultimately, you are ending up with, and what this zoning bylaw could implement is 3 dwelling units on a property. It's just not saying that you can then have 2 ARUs in the house. It's saying you have your primary dwelling, then you can have potentially 1 ARU in your house, and then you're looking at a detached structure. There are probably some different opinions out there, but that's kind of where it's landed right now with the county official plan policies at this moment.
Okay, next question. Again, going back to the multi-generation families, you're requiring that you have a separate entrance for the ARU within the primary dwelling. Could there be a consideration given that if it's for people that are related living together, you do not need a separate entrance?
So, Mr. Chair, in terms of providing a separate access, that was something that we saw many other municipalities do. And the intent is to allow for independent movement of the unit. So whether that's access from the outside or a shared entrance in terms of like a foyer to a building, it was so that the units do remain independent. So if with the way that the bylaws currently proposed with these revisions is if it is within a unit and you have to pass through one to get to it, it would require revisions or a relief from the bylaw.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, getting back to following up on comments that made by Dan. So could a trailer be theoretically a ARU?
The ARUs are intended to be permanent buildings. The temporary aspect is more related to the garden suite, so that the intent is for it to be within a permanent structure.
Okay, so is that clear in the document? In other words, it's not a trailer, like I've seen trailers on properties for, like, I think a garden suite's 20 years, I believe, or so, that the garden suites are permitted. Or 10 years, or it can be renewed quite often, every 10 years or so. I can't recall exact time frame. But is that an option, or if it's not an option, then perhaps that should be spelled out?
Yeah, and that's certainly great feedback. And I think we can take a look at the bylaw as it's proposed and make sure that that's clear.
Okay, and the last comment made by Dan with respect to severancing off, I think that should be spelled out as well, that the there's no severing off is not permitted, period.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a good point. That's one that we have within the proposed draft right now, is not to sever, and that is a requirement within the official plan in terms of policies of not taking these units off. So it's a good point.
Okay. All right, so what I've heard so far is acceptance of this. The comment I had was on trailers, make sure that's if that's the case, that they're excluded from being an ARU. Are there any other comments that people would like to make officially as part of our committee's comments? Dennis?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, Deep?
No, I'm good, actually.
Okay, Paul?
Just one thing just came quickly to mind was just around, I guess, septic systems. Like, you know, I mean, we're in the township, most of the homes are on a septic. So I'm just curious about, I don't know if we want to comment something about if we were to add a unit, or if there's a, you know, a change in the homes, you know, if you add that ARU, what happens? Like, is there a septic review being done at that time? Because most likely you'll be adding, you know, fixtures, kitchen, a washroom, and a lot. I mean, it's a bit different than if you're in the middle of a city with all of the services available, right? So
That's a good comment. Joanna, any comments in response?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in terms of the general provisions that we're proposing, we are including a general provision, and the wording is that appropriate individual on-site sewage and water services are approved for the lot, and there is adequate capacity for additional residential units and other uses on the lot. So it's when a zoning review would be being completed for these properties, that would be something that the applicant would have to satisfy. And then also the building department would also be reviewing to ensure septic is adequate for the amount of fixtures that they're proposing.
You good with that, Paul?
yeah, you know, I actually when she Joanna, you mentioned the building permit will pretty much cover that off. So I think, yeah.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, I agree with Paul's comments and yours as well, Mr. Chair, on the trailer. I didn't even think about the trailer aspect of it, but yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. Lynn, can you just summarize our comments and then we just vote to accept them as our comments?
So I have that the committee supports the zoning amendment. And I'm not sure, do you want to add Paul's concerns about the septic systems?
I would.
I think we should ensure servicing is adequately covered.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I missed the one about the trailers.
That the trailers are not permitted accessory dwelling units.
Can we just, sorry to interrupt, could
Sure,
we just
go ahead.
clarify that a little bit, that maybe it has to have a foundation of some sort? That would totally eliminate trailers, right?
Okay.
Like it's either gonna be a pad that's poured on the ground, or it's gonna have a foundation, or it's gonna be.
I'd be careful on that because we have places like Mill Creek where it's basically a trailer that they pour, they put a slab on grade type of thing, and people are living in them.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Okay, so Lynn, the comment is that trailers are not permitted as ADUs.
Yes, I have that.
Okay, great. So there's two comments. We'll go around the table for approval. Dennis?
Approve.
Deep?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approved.
I approve as well. Great, thank you. Let's move into land division, severance application, 8A. Severance application B22-22, also known as D10-MCC, Robert and Elizabeth McCrindle, Part Lot 7, Concession 2, municipally known as 6661, Wellington Road 34, Township of Puslinch. Proposed severance is 0.4682 hectares with a 36.11 meter frontage, vacant land for proposed residential use. Retained parcel is 0.9232 hectares with 55.37 meter frontage, existing and proposed rural residential use with dwelling. Okay, so let's ask the, I should reiterate this comment again, that the committee's mandate is only to provide comments to the county's land division when it considers this matter. And if you wish to make comments, this is the members of the public, please attend the land division committee when this matter is heard. Staff can let you know when this will be heard by the land division committee of the county. Okay, we'll start. Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join the panelists and present your application? All right, Nancy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Nancy Shoemaker. I'm the planning consultant working with the owners on this property. The owners have actually been working with the township with respect to a new entrance to the property. And we've also been working with the township and county regarding an environmental impact study. So the proposal is to sever part 1 on the plan, which you're showing, and that would meet the minimum area requirements for a severed parcel, as well as meeting the minimum lot frontage requirements. The house itself would be at the back of the property on lands that are currently landscaped and not covered by an environmental feature. And depending on the layout of that, the majority of the septic system would also be in the landscaped area. The property is designated in the county's official plan as part of the Greenland system. And that's primarily because this whole stretch along the south side of Wellington Road 34 is covered by a woodlot. And so the environmental impact study was prepared to address impacts to the woodlot as a result of this development. And that study has been shared with the township and the county. The conclusion was that with the implementation of appropriate environmental mitigation measures, the development could preserve the ecological features and functions of that woodlot. You'll note that we've tried to keep the driveway as close to the existing driveway as possible. That part of the woodlot has already been disturbed by the existing driveway. And the environmental implementation or the environmental impact study also recommended at the time of building permit that a more detailed tree inventory be taken in the area of the driveway. That appropriate fencing exclusionary fencing be put in place before any driveway is developed that would protect the tree canopy adjacent to the trees and the tree canopy adjacent to the driveway. They also recommended that an appropriate erosion and siltation control plan be developed as part of the site plan development to ensure that the trees and the understory is of the existing woodlot is not disturbed beyond that agreed upon driveway development. We would also be preparing, it was recommended that as part of the site plan approval, a restoration plan be prepared addressing any tree loss that would be resulting from the construction of the driveway. So in terms of other official plan policies, the owner has, the current owner has owned the land in excess of 5 years. The new lot is well outside any settlement area boundaries. It is compatible with existing development. There are a number of rural residential dwellings located both along the north and south side of Wellington Road 34 in this area. And we do have access to a public road allowance. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll ask staff, Lynn, were there any agency comments received?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we had a couple. I can read them out.
Sure.
The fire department has said that they have no concerns with the proposal, providing the driveway is designed to support emergency vehicles and tree plantings are designed so that future tree limb growth won't obstruct emergency vehicles using the long laneway to the residence. And Source Water stated that the property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat, and the application can be screened out and does not require a Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act.
Okay, could you read out the conditions that the municipality has provided as well?
Certainly. So first of all, we'll add the statement to the commenting form that the committee supports the application in principle. However, prior to being considered by the Land Division Committee, the supported EIS is to be peer reviewed by a qualified professional to the satisfaction of the township and the county of Wellington, and that the owner shall be responsible for any township costs associated with the review of the environmental impact study. As for conditions, we have our two standard ones. The first one regarding that the owner satisfy the requirements of the township financial and otherwise, including taxes paid in full, and the consent review condition clearance fee. The second one is regarding safe access to the retained lands can be accommodated to the satisfaction of the township. We're adding the first condition that the submitted environmental impact study be peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township and the county of Wellington. And the owner shall be responsible for any township costs associated with review of the EIS. Another condition we're adding is that the owner enters into a development agreement with the township of Puslinch for the purpose of the peer review of the environmental impact study to ensure compliance with the EIS, including cost recovery, ensuring the building envelope complies with the EIS, mitigation for tree loss, and other items deemed necessary by the township. And the last condition would be that the removable garden shed on the severed parcel be relocated to the satisfaction of the township. And that's it for the conditions.
Okay, great. So let's go around the table. Dennis, comments, questions?
And just one question. It looks like the septic bed's going to be into the bush and taking out trees. Was the option of putting the house forward and the septic bed behind that, where you wouldn't have the impact on the bush been looked at?
Mr. Chairman, if I can respond to that.
Absolutely.
at this point, that's sort of an unclear line, but I will say that the trees at the back of the property were planted by the current property owner. They're not part of the maple bush. They're actually trees black walnut trees that were planted by the owner for the purpose of harvesting. So we're not exactly sure, and also we're not exactly sure the final design of the house or the final design of the septic system. And if the owners choose to go into a tertiary system, the septic and the tile field or tile bed would be considerably smaller than what we're showing on this plan. So we don't believe that we're going to be into the maple bush at all with the septic system. It would simply be the black walnut trees that the current owner planted for the purpose of harvesting.
So it would be no problem to put a condition to not put the septic bed into the bush?
I don't think we would want to see that condition. The environmental consultant has said that that minor encroachment is not going to affect the ecological function of this woodlot, both in terms of the vegetation that's there and the wildlife that is there. I mean, obviously we want to minimize, because any trees that we remove have to be compensated for in terms of planting elsewhere on the property. So I don't think we want to be quite that restrictive at this point in time.
But it doesn't look like you have a lot of room. If you take that area of bush out, you only plant them behind the house, if I'm reading it right. Because you already got your laneway coming up that you got to compensate for as well, right?
Yes, but that's not, like, if you go through the property, there are many openings within the woodlot itself. So there's many areas within the woodlot that trees can be planted.
Okay, that answers my question for now.
Okay, Deep.
Thank you. Nancy, does GRCA support this application?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we contacted the GRCA and they've actually indicated to us through email that they don't have any objection, and they also don't have any interest in this property because it's not within their regulated area. The woodlot is not a concern to them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Paul.
I'm okay. My colleagues have covered it off. Thanks.
Dan?
I'm fine with this.
Okay, just a question of staff. Joanna, with respect to Dennis's comment, concern about the septic bed encroaching into the maple lot, can you comment on that, please, as well?
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the environmental impact study, that will be peer reviewed as well. In terms of the location of the septic bed, one thing I would notice that the building itself would also have to meet setback requirements from the different lot lines. So something else to keep in mind, and this is just a proposal as the applicant Nancy had indicated at this point. In terms of, so that would be one item of, in terms of the peer review, that would be something that's evaluated of whether this would impact the feature. Does that answer your question, Mr. Chair?
I think it does. You mentioned the proximity to the lot lines. Are you saying the 3 meters is not, will require minor variance, or is that in accordance with the?
So I believe, let me just see if I can pull up this property, Mr. Chair. Again, this is just my understanding of conceptual design, but there are minimum requirements within the agricultural zone, because I believe that this property is zoned agricultural and then environmental protection. Let me just see if I can pull up the bylaw here. So in terms of setback requirements, there's a minimum required setback of 7.5 meters front yard, and the rear yard is 7.5 as well, and then 3-meter interior side yard setbacks within the agricultural zone. So they would have to meet those requirements of the bylaw. But then as I said, this is just a conceptual drawing to my understanding. And the actual development would be reviewed through the peer review of that EIS.
Okay. Dennis, you satisfied with the response you received?
Yeah, I think if the peer review and the EIS should address some of my concerns, yes.
Okay, great. So Lynn read out the comments. If we're all okay with the comments we're submitting, that we support the application and the EIS be peer reviewed by a qualified professional to the satisfaction of township of and the county of Wellington. The owner will be responsible for any township costs associated with the review EIS, as well as the 5 conditions that municipality has put forward. So I'm going to suggest that we vote on that, and if you have any changes to it, let us know, and then we'll go around again. So Dennis?
Approve.
Keith?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Great, thank you. So we'll move into 8B, 7th application B28-22, also known as D10-CUL, Judith Cullen, Part Lot 11, Concession 10, municipally known as 4742, Concession 11, Township of Puslinch. Proposed severance is 50 meters frontage by 158 meters or 0.8 hectares, vacant lot for proposed rural residential use. Retained parcels 158 meter frontage on concession road 11 by 158 meter frontage on Hume Road, or 2.4 hectares. Existing proposed residential use with existing dwelling and pool. Okay, Courtney, would you please have the agent or applicant join a panelist to present their application?
Hello again. It's Haley Keys from Van Harten Surveying.
Hey, Haley, go ahead.
Thank you. I just realized that I don't think I sent the township. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so just to start, so this is a pretty straightforward rural residential severance. When we originally submitted the application, the severed parcel extended all the way back to the rear property line. But after some discussion with the GRCA and county, there was concerns with the wetland. So we altered the limit so that there's that 40 meters that stays, that little 40-meter strip behind the severed piece that stays with the retained parcel. So this was circulated to the GRCA and they were satisfied that we're now at least 35 meters from the wetland and 40 from the rear property line. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes. Yeah, so the severed piece will now be 0.6 hectares. The zoning requirements are met. The access has been evaluated and safe entrance is possible. And I believe this meets the criteria for rural severances within the secondary ag designation. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, great. Lynn, were there any agency comments received? If they have them, would you please read them out?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The fire department stated that they have no concerns with this consent application. The building department stated they also have no concerns with this application from a building perspective. Public Works, same comment, no concerns with the application. Sourcewater stated the property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat and the application to be screened out. Does not require a Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act. The GRCA has stated they have no objection to the above noted application for consent. Lines to be severed include portion of the Arco Corum Provincial Significant Wetland Complex and lands adjacent to this feature. And from their review, they believe that the proposal would not impact this regulated feature, and they have no objection to the proposal.
Okay, Len, did we receive any written comments from the public?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not.
Okay, so Len, would you please read out the proposed comments? of,
It would be
committee
our
and-
two, certainly. Yes,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, it would be our two standard that the owner satisfy the requirements of the Township of Porcelain Financial and otherwise including taxes paid in full, and the consent review and condition clearance fee to be paid, and that safe access to the lands can be accommodated to the satisfaction of the township.
Okay, so the other comment is that we support the application. All right, that's great. So let's turn it over to committee members to ask questions and comment. Dennis?
No, I'm good with this. I like the setback the way it is now.
Steve?
Safe entrance possible?
Yes,
Uh,
Mr. I
Sorry.
can answer that through the chair, Haley, if
Sure,
that's okay.
thanks.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Fowler confirmed that he has no concerns with the location of the entrance.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Dan?
I've got no concerns here.
Okay, I'm fine as well. So we have the two standard conditions that the township has put forward, and our comment is that we support the application. So let's go around the table. Either approve or suggest additions you'd like to see. Dennis?
Approve.
Deep?
Approved.
Paul?
Approved.
Dan?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other matters, we have no other matters, closed meeting, we have no closed meeting. Next meeting is Tuesday, May the 10th at 7 PM. And we have the adjournment for the meeting at 8:32 PM. Have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deep, second by Dennis. All in favor? Dennis?
Approve.
Deep?
In favor.
Paul?
In favor.
Dan?
Approve.
And I'm in favor as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Hey,
you.
everybody.